have managed to slog through Sarah Palin's memoir, and we know that because they're finding still more errors. Our third story in the countdown, she has misquoted and misattributed and misused the words of a Native American activist, hilariously mistaking Mr. John Wooden Legs for basketball's Coach John Wooden. She's annoying former friends who say she's lying about them, and in non-book news, she quit again, this time something called the Turkey Trot Race. What is it with Palin and turkeys? A quote first. Chapter 3 of Going Rogue, entitled Drill, Baby Drill, relays these stirring words attributed to UCLA basketball legend, Hall of Fame coach John Wooden. Our land is everything to us, the Wizard of Westwood supposedly said. I will tell you one of the things we remember on our land. We remember our grandfathers paid for it with their lives. But Coach Wooden never said that. As noted by Huffington Post's Jeffrey Dunn, John Wooden Legs, a Native American activist, one-time tribal president of the Northern Cheyenne, whose grandfather fought Custer at Little Bighorn, he said something close to it, but the Legs quote from an essay includes references to the Cheyennes and ends with, we remember our grandfathers paid for it with their life. Dunn notes that the Palin botched quote perfectly matches one from a website called The Quote Garden. So Palin has hastily cut and pasted a quote from a Native American activist to support her drill baby drill meme and attribute it to a great basketball coach. But the former governor's penchant to get even is causing her more trouble still. Her ex-brother-in-law, Alaska State Trooper Mike Wooten, is breaking a silence of more than a year and is considering legal action over the book. The center of Palin's Troopergate scandal calls Palin's book, quote, a pack of lies. And Wooten, an Air Force veteran, says, quote, Sarah Palin is only about Sarah. She doesn't care about the men and women in uniform. It's all about advancing Sarah's career. Meantime, Palin had announced on Twitter that she would be running the 5K Turkey Trot charity race in Washington State on Thanksgiving Day, but about 40 minutes into the run, she quit to avoid crowds at the end of the race. Let's bring in radio host, Huffington Post contributor Shannyn Moore. Shannyn, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
That misquote fits hand in glove with Palin's wonderful record about Alaska Native issues and by the fact that she twisted it for her Drill Baby Drill chapter. Can you expand on that?
I think Jeffrey Dunn did an amazing job on his piece today on Huffington. You know, it was funny because Coach Wooden said a few things that I think Sarah probably should have listened to, you know, and didn't. I think most notably was don't confuse, you know, your personhood with your basketballmanship, and don't confuse, you know, achievement with activity. You know, she has this huge amount of activity and not a lot of achievement. But, you know, it's really egregious here what she actually did do to Native Americans, far worse than any of her misquoting them. You know, when you look at subsistence issues, we had people deciding whether they should have food or heating oil last year who were starving until she went to Western Alaska with Franklin Graham, incidentally, with some cookies she'd baked. So, you know, and then she had to have the courts tell her that she had to do voting assistance for people who speak Yupik here. So, you know, the things that she's done to the Native Alaskans here have been far worse than her misquoting one.
Yeah, but also, I mean, in basketball terms, she did claim to be a basketball player, and she didn't recognize that was probably something that John Wooden would not have talked about the land and grandfathers and such. Among the local officials...
Or quitting.
Yeah, in Alaska, it's not just this Officer Wooten, the former brother-in-law, complaining here. The first legislative director that she had, John Bitney, has said, I'm just pilloried right and left and turned into the big bad wolf here, talking about the book, for stuff I didn't do. It's like I'm this fictional character that she's decided to make me out to be this sort of incompetent slob. How did that former, never mind, ally, associate become a target of the governor in this book?
Well, she wasn't just a legislative director. She was really responsible. He was really responsible for getting her elected, and was a very close ally, part of this inner circle. And for her to come out in her book and sort of have these really paltry accusations against him, you know, about his lunch on his tie or being addicted to BlackBerry games, you know, he broke his silence on my television show here. And when asked by an audience member if she was sane, he said she is a sociopath sane, and that he'd had enough. So many people that during the election held their silence and kept their loyalty to her, you know, have decided now that being an American and standing up to her is more important, and they're coming out of the woodwork here.
Don't these complaints perfectly mirror those from the McCain campaign, that she literally made things up, not nuance, not subtlety, not misquotes, but, you know, borderline delusional?
Yeah, reality deficit disorder.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And isn't it ironic that she keeps telling the press to stop making things up, you know, to stand up for the troops, and yet she throws great, wonderful veterans who have had their service to the military and to Alaskans under the bus in this book continually. John Bittney did mention that he knew exactly what Schmidt was saying when he was going to bring in a nutritionist. He said she never eats. She's a Red Bull and white mocha kind of girl, and she doesn't eat, and it's made her, you know, really difficult to work with at times. So not only is he telling his own story, but he's validating that of the McCain camp.
And the turkey trot run, basically a symbolism for this whole thing. She gets near the finish line and then quits at the last moment.
Yeah, the quitter thing. You know, that's really the way a lot of Alaskans see her, is the quitter. Even those people that really supported her at one point, you know, they're left with no governor. So we'll see how this all turns out. But the more she talks, the more people don't like her.
Shannyn Moore, talk show host, contributor to the Huffington Post. My guess at this point, it just sort of dawned on me, she will be brought down and her career will be ended not by her enemies, not by her critics, but by her friends. Great, thanks, Shannyn.